أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ ولده ولم يكن له شريك في الملك ولم يكن له ولي من الذل وكبره تكبيرا الحمد لله الله أكبر. Your Excellency, the President, Mr. Adam Barrow, Your Excellency, the Vice President, Your Excellency, the former President, Madam Fatima Tamajang, former Vice President. Colleagues, party leaders, cabinet ministers here present, members of the National Assembly present, security chiefs, Commissioner General, eminent guests, Assalamu alaikum. Fellow Gambians, the 18th February 1965, Gambians in their thousands turned out to the Makati Square to witness the proceedings of a historic occasion. Predominant in the hearts of most Gambians were the emotions of happiness and amazement. Some were happy because Gambians have now assumed the mantle of leadership, while others were amazed at the subjugation of a mighty power to the persistent demands of a small and tiny African country for nationhood. Your Excellencies, at the time, the Gambia was deemed an improbable nation. The Gambia defied all of the negative predictions that were made about the sustainability and the viability of our nation. With very limited resources and human resources, material and human resources, we were able to lift the Gambia out of difficult circumstances. And over a period of time, the Gambia became the peace headquarters of Africa, the improbable nation, creating significant impact. And not only that, after having found our feet out of the initial difficulties of building a new nation, with some challenges in terms of the economy, the Gambia established a successful economy. And our experience in the construction of that economy became a lesson for other countries in the Sahel. Our democracy became some of the most attractive export of the Gambia. It was not a perfect system, but it was one of the best in the continent. And then came 1994, when the Gambia embarked or alighted into a vehicle and then engaged a permanent reverse gear. That may be a matter of controversy. But then we had to fight our second war of independence in 2016 in order to launch what we call the New Gambia. So indeed, we do not have any major political crisis in this country today. There is no civil war, and there is no crisis really that would change the character of our governance system in any shape or form. The Gambia remains a peaceful democracy. So why the need for a dialogue? It is very important, because as a nation democracy is the greatest political experiment in the history of mankind. We must continue to improve our democracy. So the dialogue seeks to consolidate our emerging democracy. And in that sense, Your Excellency, we feel very honored and privileged to be participating in this process. We are talking about preserving the nation, safeguarding the state, and securing resources. You cannot preserve the nation if you do not safeguard the nation. You cannot safeguard the nation if you do not seek to preserve the nation. And all of these require effective management of our resources, effective public finance management of our resources. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Gambia has had one major problem throughout its history: the crisis of leadership. The crisis of leadership. The manner in which we conduct our politics has been responsible for overheating of the polity. The Gambia Moral Congress has at its core foundation the imperative to restore morality, the morality as a content of politics. When you practice politics with morality, then the issue of preserving the state will be the core of our governance system. When we practice without morality, then accountability and responsibilities fly through the window. What we need is a soul searching as a nation. Responsibility becomes collective when each of us assumes what each of us ought to perform. Collective responsibility in preserving the nation requires strengthening our institutions. It requires effective service delivery by public and civil service. It requires effective enforcement of the rule of law, a strong, vibrant, independent judiciary. It requires a strong, vibrant private sector. None of these are possible if we do not have consensus citizens, if we do not take ownership of our country. It is the lack of ownership which is reflected through the lack of practice, through the lack of politics of morality that is responsible for a lot of the inefficiencies we experience everywhere else. And that is why the lack of ownership of our nation, that is why it becomes easy for those of us, for those in the civil service, to go to office late. I've worked with the President. His Excellency is always present at his desk before 8 o'clock and would not go home before 5 o'clock every single day. Unfortunately, this cannot be said of the civil service. And we must speak truth to each other. When we talk about incompetence, you are not talking about the President is not performing, because the President alone cannot do everything. The civil services, hundreds, a few thousands, constituted by Gambians. We go to office late. Our daily tasks are not effectively executed. You have a file that you need to work on. You have a file that should take a day, will end up taking a whole week. It is not the responsibility of the President that you refuse to execute your responsibility. To work on a file that should take you an hour will take a whole day. It is not the responsibility of the President alone that you go to office late and you are paid on time. And all these things are common phenomena in the civil service. It is not the responsibility of the President alone. When you need to perform an obligation, you demand incentive for that obligation to be performed. All these are matters of public nature that we must talk about. It is not the responsibility of the President that we scheme travels in order to earn per diems. It is not the responsibility of the President. I understand. You've given, and I've calculated our time, so I'm coming down now. I'll soon conclude. It is not the responsibility of the president that when there are tenders, those of us in the private sector would undermine the process by trying to corrupt members of the tender committee. So in terms of corruption, in terms of public finance management, in terms of public accountability, it is the whole nation that is culpable. When we talk about corruption, corruption demands a giver and a receiver. If you do not give, there will be no receiver. And we have laws. When we talk about security, everybody must be an ambassador of security. If you give to the traffic officer on the beat, on the road, because you do not have a driver's license or you do not have insurance, you are encouraging crime. And it is we, the citizens, who are guilty of this performance. So let us look at ourselves. Let us reflect as a nation. Let us put the blame where the blame is. As members of a partner party, like you said, and I agree with that, I will no longer use opposition. As members of partner parties, let us criticize constructively. And also, I urge the government on the other side to be more responsive. And this dialogue, Your Excellency, you have indicated your willingness to receive new ideas, to open up. But then we must always understand that the type of following we attract reflects the type of leader we have in political parties. If the leadership is conscientious and morally obligated, the followers will follow. So we must look at ourselves critically and observe that changes need to be effected internally within political parties, because political parties are government in waiting. If we intend to govern, we must reform the way we conduct our politics before we assume the mantle of leadership. The medium is small, but Your Excellency, I want to encourage this type of dialogue to continue. At the Gambia Moral Congress, we believe politics without morality will lead this country down the drain. Politics with morality will do away with dishonesty, will do away with corruption and stealing, will do away with cheating, and will do away with all other vices that beset this country. Honest politics is easy to perform than dishonest politics. It is easy to praise than insult. It is easy to embrace than disunite. Your Excellency, we are willing to work with you to put this country on a straight path, and we open our doors for partnership for all other political parties to move this country to the next trajectory. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I am slowly